Alaikum assalam.
Okay, today we'll study the blood supply of the heart. So these are the specific objectives. The first one is describe the right and left coronary arteries regarding origin, course, branches and distribution. And the second is describe the venous drainage of the heart with emphasis on the coronary sinus. Coming to the blood supply of the heart. So as you know, the heart is supplied by two important arteries. These are called as coronary arteries. The coronary arteries, the right and the left. So if you see this picture, you can see here this is seen from above. The atria have been removed so that you can see the arteries. This is the right coronary artery and this is the left coronary artery. To be more specific, this is how it looks like. And from the front, this is how it looks like. This is the right coronary artery and this is the left coronary artery. Left coronary artery here and this is the right coronary artery. Okay. So these
Okay.
arteries are said to be not end arteries. They are not end arteries because anatomically they anastomose. They are connected to each other. They are connected to each other. So whenever the arteries don't end blindly, but they connect with each other, then it is called as anastomosis. So they are not end arteries. But physiologically, if you see actually functionally, if one artery is blocked, it is rarely that the it is compensated by the other artery. So physiologically, still end arteries because they don't function like the anastomosing arteries. Because if one is blocked, the other should compensate. But in case of the heart, they don't anastomose very well and they don't compensate well. So that's why it is said
Doctor, the slide not moving.
it is not moving. Okay,
No, in the first slide, actually. Yes, now it's moving.
now it is moving. It is moving. Okay. So if you see the anatomically, as I said, they are not end arteries because they are anastomosing, but physiologically because they don't compensate. If one artery is blocked, the other artery doesn't compensate well, then it is called as, that's why it is called as physiological end arteries. Okay, so there's difference between the anatomical and physiological uh, differences. Okay, coming to these act as vasa vasorum of the ascending aorta. What do you mean by vasa vasorum? The arteries supplying the arteries, the blood vessels supplying the blood vessels. Those are called a vasorum. So they will be supplying a part of the ascending aorta. So okay, as well as the heart. So that's why they're called as vasorum. Okay. These are the only arteries where the blood flows in diastole. What do you mean by this? Whenever the the heart contract, then it is called a systole, right? So whenever the heart contract, when the two ventricles contract and the blood is gushed into all the arteries, then it is called as systole. Okay, so all the arteries get the blood when the ventricles contract and the blood is pushed into the aorta and from there to the all arteries. So all the arteries get the blood supply during the systole. But in case of these coronary arteries, they get the blood when there is diastole, when the ventricles relax. Because if you see here, these are the coronary arteries, this is the right coronary and left coronary artery. So when the ventricles contract, the blood, especially the left ventricle, the blood is gushed into the aorta and it is pushed to all the arteries. Okay, so it doesn't go to these arteries because they are just at the beginning of the aorta. Okay, so but when the heart relax, that is diastole, the blood will try to regurgitate back. So when it regurgitates back, so because there is the aortic valve here, so which is the semilunar valves, aortic valves, so the blood will get stopped here. Okay, it is blocked because these semilunar valves close. Okay, now the blood will get pushed into the the coronary arteries, which are on the either side at the aortic sinuses. Okay, so that's why these arteries will get the blood supply. The blood will be flowing through these arteries, to be more specific, during the diastole. Okay, so this is the difference between these arteries and the other arteries. So all other arteries get the blood will flow through them during the systole, but in case of the coronary artery, the blood will flow through them during the diastole. Okay. Okay, coming to the right coronary artery, we will study one by one these arteries. The first one is the right coronary. This is the right coronary artery. It arises from the anterior aortic sinus of the ascending aorta. As I said at the beginning of the aorta, ascending aorta. This is the ascending aorta. There is the aortic sinuses will be there. Just above that aortic sinuses, we can see the opening. These are the openings for the
Doctor, excuse me, the
right and
slide
the
is
left
not
coronary
moving.
artery. So this right coronary artery begins from the anterior right aortic sinus. So anterior right aortic sinus. From here, this is the beginning of the right coronary artery. So here it will come out. Okay. Passes between
Doctor, the
pulmonary
screen not
trunk and the
moving.
right auricle. So if you see here, so it begins from the right coronary sinus, and it passes between this is the pulmonary trunk, and this is the right auricle. Auricle is the ear of the right atrium. Okay, so this is the right auricle and passes between the right auricle and the pulmonary trunk. So and then it descends downwards. Okay, descending along the right atrioventricular groove. There is a groove here between the right atrium and the right ventricle. This is called as the right atrioventricular groove. So through this
Doctor, the slide that move
the right coronary artery will
and the
pass
blood supply of heart.
along the right atrioventricular groove, winds round the inferior border, passes left to the diaphragm. So it winds here. If you see here, goes to the diaphragmatic surface by descending downwards, winding here, and then goes on the diaphragmatic surface. Still not moving. Okay, let me again check. I don't know what's the problem. Anyhow, okay. So let me keep like this. Okay. Now it is moving. Now it is moving.
Yes.
So it will be passing downwards along this right atrioventricular groove. Then it descends. Then it winds around this border. Then goes to diaphragmatic surface. Okay, and gives posterior interventricular branch. Then it will give a branch, very important branch called as the posterior interventricular branch of the right coronary artery. So this is the whole course of this artery. So it gives posterior interventricular branch, which anastomoses with the anterior interventricular branch of the left coronary artery. So this artery, posterior interventricular branch of the right coronary artery, anastomoses with the anterior interventricular branch of the left coronary artery, which is coming from the left. So there is anastomosis anatomically, as I said, the anastomosis between the right and the left coronary artery. Okay. The main artery itself anastomoses with the circumflex branch of the left coronary artery. If you now see here, the main artery, this is the main artery, right? The coronary artery, it will go all the way on the inferior, the diaphragmatic surface. Then it anastomoses with one of the branches of the left coronary, that is the circumflex branch. So as soon as the left coronary artery comes, it gives two branches. One is the anti-interventricular branch and the circumflex branch. Circumflex branch will go behind and it will anastomose with the main artery, the right coronary artery. Okay. So this is what is said. Main artery is itself anastomoses with the circumflex branch of the left coronary artery. Branches from the, what are the branches which it will give? Branches from the first part upon inferior border gives ventricular rami. So it will be giving the ventricular rami, many branches to the ventricles. So it will be giving atrial branches as well as ventricular branches. Okay. Ventricular rami, they are called as ventricular rami. And in this, there are right coronary, the right conus artery, which will be going to the cone. Okay, so this is the conus branch. Okay, then we have the right anterior interventricular rami. So it will also give one branch which is called as anterior interventricular rami. Okay, this is not shown in this picture. Okay, then we have the atrial rami. Then it will also be giving branches to the atrium. So it will be supplying the right atrium and the ventricular to the atrial rami and ventricular rami. Okay. Then it also gives one important branch called as the sinoatrial nodal artery. Sino, if you see here, this is the branch going to the sinoatrial nodal branch. Okay, so it will be supplying the SA node and other parts. Okay, so this is called as the sinoatrial nodal branch of the right coronary artery. This is the branch here. Okay, so these are some of the branches from the first part. Then the second branches from the second part on the diaphragmatic, it will be on the inferior surface or the diaphragmatic surface. Which are those branches? These are the right posterior interventricular branch. So it will be giving branches here for the posterior ventricular branches, right posterior ventricular branches. Then posterior interventricular branch, a very important branch as we saw here before. Okay, so here this is the posterior interventricular branch of the right coronary artery, which anastomosis with the anterior interventricular branch. So this branch is also given. Then right posterior atrial rami, just like it will be giving the ventricular rami, it will be also supplying the atrium, right atrium. So those are called atrial branches or atrial rami. Rami means branches. Okay, atrial branches as well as ventricular branches. Okay, both from the first part as well as from the second part. So these are some of the branches. Now going to the second artery, which is the left coronary artery. Here is the left coronary artery. It is wider artery compared to the right coronary artery. It is more wider and supplies larger volume of blood. Okay, because as we know, the right ventricle, the left ventricle is the most important chambers because it will be pumping and it will be doing a lot of hard work, so which has to push the blood into the aorta. So that's why it needs, the left ventricle needs more blood supply. So this is supplied by the left coronary artery. So it is wider as well as supplies larger volume of blood. Okay, because the work done by the left ventricle is much more. Okay, arises from the left posterior aortic sinus of the ascending aorta. As we saw here, it will be taking origin from the left posterior aortic sinus. This is the left coronary artery and it passes behind the pulmonary trunk. Okay, arises from the left posterior aortic sinus of the ascending aorta, and from the left posterior aortic sinus passes behind the pulmonary trunk. This is the pulmonary trunk, it is passing behind, it is not in the front. Okay, if you see the picture, it looks like as though it is in the front, but it is actually passing behind. Okay, so that's why it is shown slightly lighter. Okay, so it is passing behind the pulmonary trunk and then between it and the left auricle. So here is the left auricle, so it passes between the pulmonary trunk and the left auricle. Okay, for the right coronary artery, it passes between the pulmonary trunk and the right auricle. For the left coronary artery, it passes between the left auricle and the pulmonary trunk. Okay, so here is the artery, but it is a short artery. Okay, as soon as it comes, it divides into two important branches. One is the anterior interventricular branch of the left coronary artery. Okay, then the second artery is the circumflex branch. It is called a circumflex because as soon as it takes origin, so it will wind behind, okay, and goes to the diaphragmatic surface. So that's why it's called a circumflex. Coming to the branches, what are the branches it will be giving? The anterior interventricular artery, as we have seen, this is the most important branch here, as well as the circumflex, two important branches. The anterior interventricular branch, which will be giving anterior ventricular rami, it will be giving lot of branches here. These are called as the anterior ventricular rami as well as septal rami. Septal rami, one of the branches will go as the septal rami. One of the important branches from the anterior ventricular branch is also the diagonal branch. Diagonal branch as well as some will go to the septum, interventricular septum. So these are called as the septal rami. Then the circumflex artery. Circumflex artery is behind. Okay, so here is the circumflex artery. As soon as it's taken, I said it will wind on the left side and go behind to the diaphragmatic surface. It will be giving both the atrial as well as the ventricular ram. It will be giving multiple branches. All branches cannot be shown here, so it is simply not it becomes complicated, but you can remember that it is giving the atrial branches as well as the ventricular branches. Then it also gives the sinoatrial nodal artery. Just like the right artery gave the sinoatrial, so the left coronary artery also gives a branch called as the sinoatrial nodal branch. Okay. Then the left marginal artery. Then it also gives a marginal artery. If you see here, this is the left marginal branch of the circumflex artery. Okay. Then the posterior interventricular artery, just like we had the posterior interventricular branch from the right coronary artery. Similarly, even the circumflex branch also gives the posterior interventricular branch of the left coronary artery. So both the right as well as the left coronary arteries give the interventricular branches. Okay. Then there is also an artery called as the Kugel's artery. All these arteries are the branches from the left coronary artery. So now coming to the area supplied by each coronary artery. What is the area supplied by each coronary artery? The right coronary artery supply the whole of the right atrium and most of the right ventricle, because it is on the right side. As we can imagine, the right coronary artery will be supplying the whole of the right atrium as well as most of the right ventricle, except a strip along the anterior interventricular groove, along the anterior interventricular, because we have seen along the anterior interventricular groove is the anterior interventricular branch, which is coming from the left. So a part of that is not supplied by the right coronary artery. Okay, if not, it will supply the whole of the right atrium as well as most of the parts of the right ventricle. It also supplies the posterior inferior 1/3 of the ventricular septum, interventricular septum. The posterior 1/3 is supplied by this right coronary artery, as well as both the SA node as well as the EAV node. Even though there might be some branches from the left coronary artery, but the main supply for the SA node, both the conduction right coronary artery. So as you can imagine, what can happen if there is a block to the right coronary artery. Okay. SA node and the AV node, both are supplied by the right coronary artery. Coming to the left coronary artery, it supplies most of the left atrium as well as the left ventricle, except a strip along the posterior and inferior surface. Except these two parts, most of the left atrium and the left ventricle supplied by the left coronary artery, because it is on the left side, except a strip along the posterior and inferior surfaces. Then also the anterior superior 2/3 of the ventricular septum. The posterior posterior inferior 1/3 of the ventricular septum, interventricular septum, which is between the two ventricles, is supplied by the right coronary artery, but the anterior 2/3 will be supplied by the ventricular septum by the left coronary artery. So these are the areas supplied by the right coronary artery as well as the left coronary artery. Now going to the venous drainage of the heart. So almost 60% of the venous blood of the heart drains via the coronary sinus into the right atrium. There is something called as the coronary sinus. So this is the largest vein of the heart. Okay, so this will be draining almost 60% of the venous blood of the heart drains by the coronary sinus. Okay, coronary sinus. It is called a sinus because sinus means space. Okay, but this is not a space, a larger vein, because it is very broad vein. So that's why it is called as coronary sinus compared to the other veins which are very small, narrow. Okay, so this is the largest vein, which most of the veins drains into this. This is called as the coronary vein, the coronary sinus. So almost 60% of the venous blood will be drained. What about the remaining 40%? This remaining venous blood will be drained into different chambers via the small veins called as venae caudes minimi, which we discussed before, which will be opening into the right. Most of them will be opening into the right atrium, and very few into the left atrium. Okay, so these are called as the venae caudes minimi. Okay, these are small veins which will drain almost 40% of the remaining blood. Okay. Coming to the coronary sinus, conveys greater part of the blood from the left coronary artery. Okay, most of the blood drained from the left coronary artery will be through the coronary sinus. The anterior cardiac veins drain most of the blood from the right coronary artery. Okay, so here you can see here, this is the coronary sinus. It will be draining most of the blood, up to almost 60%, and most of the blood from the left coronary artery. Okay. The coronary sinus, it is wide venous channel of the heart. Okay, it can be defined as wide venous channel. That's why it is called a sinus, not vein. Present in the posterior part of the atrioventricular groove. Where it is present? It is present here. Okay, it is present in the posterior atrioventricular groove. So these are the atrium. This is the picture seen from behind as well as from below. So this is the diaphragmatic surface. This is the posterior surface of the base of the heart. This is the base of the heart. This is the diaphragmatic surface. In between them is, these are the atrium and these are the ventricles, both the ventricles. So in between is the atrioventricular groove, and this is present in the posterior part of the atrioventricular groove, where we can see this coronary sinus, and it drains almost 60% of the lymph, which we discussed before. So what are the veins which are draining into these? Okay, these are called as tributaries. Arteries are branches, but the veins will have tributaries. So what are the tributaries which will drain all these veins draining into this coronary sinus? One is the called as the great cardiac vein. Great cardiac vein, if you see here, so it is much more clearly seen from the front. So it will be going along with the anterior interventricular artery. Okay, so this will be present there as anterior interventricular vein, then will continue as the great cardiac vein and goes behind and drains into the coronary sinus. As the name indicates, they are larger. It is larger compared to the middle and small. There are great cardiac vein, middle cardiac vein, and the small cardiac vein. Great cardiac vein will be larger compared to the other veins. The middle cardiac vein. Okay, so here you can see here. This is the middle cardiac vein. So this is the picture. Even though it is posterior, it can be seen. This is actually on the diaphragmatic surface. This is the middle cardiac vein. Okay. Then we have the small cardiac vein coming from the right side of the heart. You see here, this is the right side of the heart, from where it will be draining into the coronary sinus through the small cardiac vein. So the great cardiac vein, middle, as well as the small cardiac vein, all these are the three important tributaries. So great cardiac vein here, this one coming all the way like this. Then we have the middle cardiac vein and the small cardiac vein. Then along with that, there is the posterior vein of the left ventricle. Also there is a vein called as the posterior cardiac vein, or the posterior vein of the left ventricle. Okay, so here you can see. Then we have the oblique vein of the left atrium. There is also a vein coming from the left atrium called as the oblique vein. Not shown here again in these pictures, but you can imagine coming from this is the left atrium, so it might be coming from there. Okay, so all these are the tributaries of the coronary sinus. All these veins will be draining. So most of them, they are coming from the left side of the left atrium ventricle, and some from the right side of the heart. Okay. So this is all about the blood supply. Now we'll study how the imaging is done. Okay, so it is Sir Godfrey Hounsfield who first actually could do the CT scan. He was the godfather who found this CT scans and the MRIs. Okay, he was from the 1919 to 2004, and he found this. But he was the British engineer who created the CT scan and who found this CT scan and this kind of imaging. The detector translates the tissue reaction to X-ray into white and black and gray pixels. So whenever the X-ray radiations are passed, then it will be turned on the detector as white, black, and gray pixels. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Okay. So these are the pictures shown from the CT scan. Okay, the image shows different levels through the heart. So these are the sections at different levels of the heart. So here is the heart. You can see here, along with that, you can see the vessels. Okay, all the things. But it is difficult to analyze unless you are trained to study these CT scans. So it has a special course where you can study these X-rays and practice it. Only when you practice, then you can understand the concept of these X-ray, the CT scans. Okay, so the image show different levels to the heart. Mediastinal shadow, this is called the mediastinal shadow or the window, as changes from the superior mediastinum showing the vessels and the middle mediastinum that show the heart surface. So these are the upper levels and these are the lower levels where we can see the vessels here. Then we can see the actual heart here. Heart surface looks for different heart surface and chamber shares its formation. So it will share not only the, if you study these X-rays, then you can understand where exactly the walls or any damage to the vessels and the heart itself, everything can be detected. But it is still difficult for you unless you are trained to do so. Okay. Now coming to the angiography. Okay, angiogram, where you do we pass the dye into the coronary arteries and see if there is any block. Okay, so this is the picture showing you the dye pass through the coronary arteries. So here you can see this is the left main stem. LMT means left main stem. That is the short left coronary artery. As soon as then it will give two important branches. One is the left anterior descending. So this is left anterior descending. It is called as the anterior interventricular branch. But clinically they call it as the left anterior descending, and it will also give branches called as the diagonal branch. D1, D2, D3. They divide it into different levels. Then also the circumflex. LCX means circumflex, circumflex, left circumflex gives the obtuse marginal branch. Marginal branches called as the obtuse marginal branches. So all these branches can be seen here. This is the diagonal branch. This is the left anterior descending, and this is the main left coronary artery. This is the circumflex artery. Okay. Then when we see further, this left main branch, that is the left coronary artery giving the circumflex artery, and the left anterior descending will also give small branches. These are called as septal branches, which I said will be supplying the septum, the interventricular septum. So these are called as septal branches. Then there are some arteries which come directly downward. These are called as the diagonal branches. So all these branches can be seen here when you pass the dye. The heart is not seen, but only the vessels, because the dye is passing through them. Okay. Now, if there is any narrowing of these arteries, okay, which leads to a lot of complications, then you can see it as a narrow point without the dye passing it through it. So here is the block, and here is the narrowing of the artery here. Okay. Post narrowing flow suggests stent treatment. So this kind of narrowing will lead to, we have to give a stent into the vessels. So here is the stent put into the blood vessel so that the blood can pass. But stent, again, it leads to a lot of complications. Later, again, within 1 or 2 years, there will be blockage in these arteries. Again, so there are nowadays stents with the medicated stents. Okay, where they will be releasing small quantity of drug which will prevent the blockage, but still they are not very effective. Okay. Coming to the other spectrographs of the heart, where you do the dye is passed, or sometimes even without the dye. Okay, you do the ultrasound. Okay, then you can see the cardiac beatings as well as the blood flow. Okay, so all this can be seen at different levels. These are at different levels where you do the ultrasound and you study these all these levels and the blood flow. Okay. So this is scanning with stress exclude infarction and diagonal angina. Again, these are the different levels, and you can easily find the angina and why there is a decreased blood supply and other things. Cardiac scan for the inferior ischemia. Okay, so all this can be diagnosed. If you again you are trained to do so, then you can easily identify the ischemia. Okay, not for everybody. Now coming to now if you combine the coronary with the the coronary CT with the angiography. This is how it looks like. This will give a very good picture where we combine the CT. If the CT scan display plain CT scans, then it will be very vague. Okay. Then only the angiography, this will be like that. If you combine these two, then it leads to a very clear picture. This is called as CT angiography, where you can see the right and left coronary. This is the right coronary artery. This is the right coronary. This is the left coronary artery, which is giving the circumflex branch. This is the anterior descending, which is the anterior ventricular branch. Then we have the diagonal branch, D1, D2. Everything is shown here. Seen with their branches, the left coronary artery arises from the left posterior aortic sinus here, and the right coronary arises from the right coronary sinus from here. So these are the coronary sinuses. So this is the aorta. These are the dilated parts from where these are arising. So these are called as the sinuses. So the coronary angio for the coronary artery shows the origin of the right and the left coronary arteries, the origin of the left anterior descending circumflex and D1. If you see here, so again these CT angiography, you can see here this is the aorta, and this is the right coronary artery, and here is the left coronary artery. This is giving branch. This is the circumflex, and this is the left anterior descending, and these are the diagonal branches. So if you go behind and see, so here you can see here this is the main left coronary artery. Here is the right coronary artery with the left, and now it is giving the circumflex branch, and this is the left anterior descending, which is also called as the anterior interventricular branch. These are the diagonal branches. Okay, now coming to some of the clinical features, clinical anatomy. Okay, which you'll study more in detail. I will just brief little about the clinical anatomy. You will study much more in the pathology and other parts. Okay, so what do you mean by ischemic heart disease? Okay, it is a very common cause of death which results from insufficient coronary blood flow. So as we saw before, if there is a narrowing. Okay, so this is the narrowing of the coronary arteries. So if there is any narrowing, then it leads to insufficient coronary blood flow. Okay, then it leads to a lot of complications. The most frequent cause of diminished blood flow will be the atherosclerosis. That is the accumulation of fat within the blood vessel. That is the atherosclerosis. Okay, the large quantity of cholesterol gradually deposits beneath the endothelium, later fibrous and calcified. If you see here, so if you see, this is the imagine, this is the blood vessel. Okay, so here below that the blood is flowing, these are the blood vessels, and here you can see the fat deposition. Then you can see here this part is the fibrous tissue covering ruptured, and now the blood vessel come and try to block this. Already there is this fat deposition. This is the atherosclerosis, and now the blood, there is narrowing of this part of the blood vessel. So there will be less blood flow flowing, and it leads to ischemic heart disease. So large quantity of cholesterol gradually deposits beneath the endothelium, later fibrous and sometimes even calcified. So once it is calcified, it is very difficult to remove. These atherosclerotic plaques protrude into the lumen and either block or partially block the blood flow. As we can see here, there is a partial block here now. Sometimes it can totally close. The most common site is the first few centimeters of the coronary arteries. As soon as the coronary artery begins, there will be within the first few centimeters will be this atherosclerosis. So these can be of the two types. One is the acute coronary occlusion, which can lead to myocardial infarction. If it is acute sudden, then it leads to myocardial infarction, and if it is prolonged, then it leads to continuous pain in the chest. This is called as the angina pectoris. Okay. The acute coronary occlusion can be most commonly occurs in person having underlying atherosclerosis. From atherosclerosis, there can be causes can be because of the thrombosis or embolism, or sometimes even the spasm of the coronary arteries. Anything can lead to the acute coronary occlusion. So this is the acute myocardial infarction, where the acute coronary occlusion seizes the blood flow beyond the occlusion. As you can see here, so these are the blood vessels shown here. So here is the plaque, and here the blood vessel, the blood flow has been occluded. The area of the muscle that cannot sustain its function due to zero or less flow is said to be infarcted. So if there is total occlusion, then the blood flow to this region is very much reduced, or there is total blockage of blood. So this part of the blood, the muscle of the heart will lead to infarction, okay, and almost death of this part of the muscle, and it leads to non-functioning of this part, and it leads to complication. This is called as acute myocardial infarction. So here you can see here, this is the blood vessels shown much more like a plague. This is the plague built up in the coronary artery, blocking blood flow and oxygen to the heart. So this part of the blood is not flowing into this part of the heart, and then it leads to lack of blood flow and the oxygen to this part. Okay, which leads to myocardial infarction. Damage and death of the heart tissue is shown in purple. So it leads to damage of this part of the heart, as well as the even the death of that part of the heart. Then what is angina pectoris? Okay, it is a condition in which there is cardiac pain whenever there is increased load of the heart. So here there is partial occlusion, so the blood flow is not totally occluded, so there is no depth of that part of the heart, okay, of that tissue part, but there is decreased flow. So whenever you whenever you exert, at that time the heart cannot pump the required amount of blood. Okay, so if there is excessive load and the heart cannot pump because of the decreased blood flow, then it leads to pain in the heart, that is called as the cardiac pain. It occurs when the blood through the coronary artery is reduced to a point that myocardium become hypoxic. So only when there is exertion, so the heart needs to pump more blood. At that time, so it cannot pump more blood because there is decreased blood flow to that part of the heart. Okay, but in the normal, when at rest, there is no pain. So this kind of pain is called as angina pectoris. Okay. So more of this you will study in pathology and other things. Okay. So this is all about the blood supply of the heart. If you have any doubts regarding this, you can ask me now.
Thank you, Doctor.
So do you have any doubts?
All clear, thank you.
Okay, let me take your attendance just a week. Let me take your attendance, just wait for a few seconds. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.